With a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thanks to the organizers for this kind of invitation. First of all, I want to apologize on behalf of Mr. Evgan Dunger, who is the Ion Reality CEO, if not attending as something urgent came up on the last minute, and I'll be the one to talk about today's topic, which is augmented and virtual reality making revolutionary changes in the industry growth. So before I actually begin, I want to make sure everyone here understands the main two concepts of the augmented reality and the virtual reality. So let me start with augmented reality as a definition. It's actually basically on overlaying and adding, let's say, virtual objects into the real environment using a tablet or a mobile phone or even an AR glasses, smart glasses. And basically, I think you know and heard about Pokemon Go and IKEA application and so on. And the next technology, which is virtual reality, it is actually to immerse the user into this, let's say, digital environment, or even a 360 based on pre-recorded video or even a live video, that once you wear these kind of goggles, such as HTC Vives and Oculus Rift, you can actually be in this virtual environment and you lose sense of the real world. So let me talk briefly about our company as Ion Reality. So basically, we opened a new branch here. Ion Reality UAE is actually a joint venture between Yas Holding and also Ion Reality Global, which established in 1999. That was like 19 years ago. And we are focusing into developing augmented reality and virtual reality software and applications. So let me just go to the next slide. So Ion Reality is actually the world leader in augmented reality and virtual reality based knowledge-based transfer. So what do you mean by that? We have something called Interactive Digital Center, and it consists of three main parts. Number one is actually the development office, and this office is responsible about developing applications for business-related matters. And number two is actually the school. So we have an academy. Of course, we partnered with HCT, Higher College of Technology, in Dubai Men's College, our office. And we actually have a full curriculum teaching students how to develop these applications. So we're going to teach them from zero, like from A to Z, and they will learn how to develop and become an expert into developing all these projects. And the third one is actually the most exciting part, is the showroom. So we actually have all these immersive systems. We got it from the USA, planted in our office, which I'm going to show you a video so you can have a better idea on our IDC. So this was a very short trip of our office inside our showroom. We have lots of immersive systems that actually the development team and also the students can actually access and learn more about the hardware capability in order to actually develop something customized to each device. So let me go to the next slide and elaborate more. 1 second. So we have multiple bullet points on the company highlights. And as I've mentioned before, we are the world leader in augmented and virtual reality-based knowledge transfer. And we have different missions and lots of visions. So let's start with mission-driven organization. We have something called Eon Human 2.0, which is bridging the gap between man and machine. And as you know, now technology is rapidly growing. We need to make sure that we empower our employees and workers in terms, like, instead of replacing them with machines, we need to make sure they are fully empowered. And also we have bridging the gap between medical with blue chip customers, including Exxon, GSK, Honeywell, and so on the list. We need to make sure that we believe that we empower AVR and let's say the needs of the virtual reality and augmented reality is growing rapidly, and it will reach about 100 billion by 2020. And also, we have created and we have something called enterprise class AVR SaaS as an platform. Securely creates and stores and analyzes and distributes and publish AVR agnostically fueled by AI, IoT, and GIS. We have another slide that will explain more about it. And also, we're saying that industry-leading management team, we have really a global reach of 30 offices around the world, and each office has their own expertise. And of course, we've proven experience in enterprise solution in education and ICT. A clear path to expansion. We also have manufacture, export, aerospace, education. All of these sectors are actually one of we have a lot of customers in these sectors. We're not focusing into just one sector, but all over the sectors. We have many solutions. And also, we have a high scalable IDC model. So the same IDC model we have created in the UAE, we also expand the same idea in different countries of joining, having like a joint venture between a local company that is in the country, or we can also be fully owned by Eon. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. I think I can trade. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a big problem. Let me just use this. So, okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so we have technology is actually distributed kills and jobs. The problem with technology nowadays, it's, as I mentioned, is that it kills lots of jobs. And we have to make sure the traditional learning methods cannot cope with the pace of change. And also the rapid technology distribution kills millions of jobs every day. And the distribution of killing existing jobs and creating new ones is accelerating. So let me also move to the next slide. I think it doesn't click. Okay, it works with you. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So, as you can see here, from 2009 till 2017, there's a lot of jobs openings, but the level of skill is not really reachable. As let's say the way we're teaching our students, the way we're learning and teaching our employees, it's not growing with the pace of technology. So we have to make sure is how are we gonna solve this? Let me open. Okay, I think it only works with you. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I'm just gonna do it from here. Okay. So we have a statistics. By 2030, half of all workers in Japan and 33% of the US workforce will require retraining. And the best way to do it is, instead of going with a traditional and, let's say, the time consuming training sessions, we can always go and use the, let's say, the VR and AR training methods. And let me go with, so we have the negative scenario and the positive scenario. So the negative scenario is saying that AI empowered machines and finding meaning in a world without work. So most jobs that exist today will disappear within decades, as artificial intelligence empowered machines outperform humans in more and more tasks. It will replace human in more and more jobs. And by 2050, a new class of people might emerge. And people who are not just unemployed, but unemployable. So however, this is not a human solution. A job is more than a salary. Its purpose, its meaning, its identity, and its dignity. So this is the negative part. Let's go to the positive scenario. We have something called AVR Empowered Human. So we are trying to solve this problem with empowering, let's say, about 3.8 billion people to grow beyond their current human constraints. As our vision is to blend man and machine and to work, let's say, in parallel. So they're not just depending on fully on the machine. We want our workers to actually let's say, instruct the machines on what to do. So let me go to the next slide. Okay. So we have a solution called the AVR platform, which consists of three main parts. One of the parts, number one, is Creator AVR, which I will also explain in a minute. And also we have Virtual Trainer, which we actually got here. And we're going to showcase that also at the end of this presentation. And also we have AR Assist, which is basically the employee or the worker would be actually wearing those smart glasses, and they will be augmented application through it. So for example, I'll be wearing those glasses, and some expert will be assisting me and telling me what exactly I need to do. So that will empower those employees and have more confidence into dealing with, let's say, the most expensive equipment. So they don't want to risk it, and you don't want to have mistakes happen. So with this kind of equipment, it really just helps the employee to work with an expert without having a traveling cost or other. So you can see 2.5 billion workers need fast knowledge. And this is actually one example of the AR Assist. As you can see, he is wearing those AR glasses, and he's looking at some, let's say, plant, and a number is appearing for him, and he would need to do the next steps. So, before, let's say, just depending on what he actually learned and what he actually, has been given to in, let's say, in videos or presentations, it is a live assistant of the employee and the worker. And also there is statistics showing by 2020, half of the top 50,000 companies will have augmented and virtual reality projects. So we have this case study, which we done with Atlas Copos. We have done two modules. One using AR solution, and one is using virtual reality solution. So with AR, we actually did a service technician training, and they noticed a really huge difference between the classic training and the AR training. So they did the augmented reality training, and that made them 12 times faster than the regular operation, the regular, let's say, process of training. And also, the cost saving are really a huge number. It cost saved 92% of what they usually spend on classic and traditional training. But for operators training, it was actually for the virtual reality training. So instead of just sending the employees and, let's say, using the classical training, they said, no, we can just try this virtual training. And they actually did it in a less time in training. And also, that was also faster to train the employees, as in about 3 times faster. And also a cost saving of 63%. So we have problems of the industry. As you can see, the current, let's say, training methods that's being used have more than 5 elements, and very important elements, honestly. The first one is the cost. So really, the need to access the actual platform site to train on increases the cost of training. Okay. Let's just make sure. Okay. So there is a need to minimize the time and resources spent on training while also maintaining high quality. And for complexity, also equipment employees need to be proficient on continue to change rapidly and become more complex. Number 3 is risk. So companies cannot effectively train for the wide variety of hazardous situations an employee might face, and trainees are unable to realistically simulate all the issues they may face in a maintenance or a flight situation. Number 4 is quality, of course. Traditional classroom training does not give hands-on experience, nor does it support critical thinking and problem solving and communication and grade. This is very crucial for learning complicated procedure. And number 5, it's difficult to assess. So traditional evaluation methods, which emphasize classroom performance, are often insufficient in evaluating long-term field capabilities. Okay. Perfect, thank you. Okay. So these are the training challenges that is really the main highlights of the challenges we're facing now. So increasing cost of training. As with training costs increasing per person every year, the race is on for organizations to deliver courses and programs cost efficiently while maintaining high standards. And we are also going with low attention spans. So reduced attention spans are a result of 3 combined environmental and cultural factors: connected, immersive, and collaborative media. So the key to engaging training is that it must make the most of these technologies, not refute them. And of course, virtual reality delivers an engaging, immersive training that requires the user to be involved with the content rather than a passive observer. Okay. So we have the AVR solution, which I briefly talked about. So our AVR platform is actually based on the data and the technology and softwares of all these, let's say, companies and softwares. So we are always adaptable and flexible with all these applications to make our AVR platform agnostic with bringing out the best solution required. So we have our AVR platform. It consists of 6 main parts. So it has virtual reality, it has augmented reality, it has also multi-user that can go on and use it. It's cloud-based, and also content library and brandable. So what I mean by this AVR platform is basically we put all the required content inside this platform, and it can be customized to each company and to each, let's say, training that the company would require. So let me just see. Okay, I'm just going to use this. So here, first we have Creator AVR, which is basically an application that can be customized to different, like, we can insert 3D models inside this application, and let's say, the teacher, for example, would put his own lesson into this platform, and multiple users can access, let's say students, can access this application and see what is the lesson that has been put by the teacher. So instead of using just papers and pens, we can actually depend on this platform to make sure the teacher actually, let's say, for the students, they work with this application. It's more interactive. I'll show you an example of it after this. And of course, the virtual trainer, which I want to explain really very little because you're going to see it now. So basically, on the virtual trainer, we have, let's say, one expert who will be let's say, in the UK. And the trainees can be up to 32 in the same environment. So what we created here is one environment that the trainee will be, let's say, in a simulation, in a full environment plant. It will be oil and gas related. So we're going to make sure the expert in the UK can teach the worker into how to proceed with the lessons. So we're going to show one lesson, and you're going to understand the concepts better than just talking about it. And we have the AR Assist, which is, I already explained about it, using AR smart glasses. Okay, let me just show. Okay, I think we can actually go and start the demo. So the virtual trainer, we can show it Mahmoud, my colleague. So I'm just gonna switch the screen. نقدر نوطي الصوت. So this is actually the sound of this plant. Let me just, can I have a chair? So I get the laptop. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so my colleague here, and let's pretend he's the trainee on the other side of the world. And I'm going to start instructing him on what he will need to do. Let me just make sure. So I logged in as the trainer. Let me see. Okay, so as you can see here, I have a lesson plan, and I want my colleague, as you can see him here, he's wearing the head-mounted display, and he's just walking and checking the environment. And what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna start instructing him to do task by task. So for example, the first task will be to turn off the pump at the control panel. And I can click here, and I can view this plant where he should be going. So I will highlight it to him. And now he can see it highlighted. So he will turn it off, and once he does, it will actually tick in my lesson step. So Mahmoud, can you turn off? Perfect. So you can see here the percentage of the completion of this lesson. So it's at 14% now. So I'm gonna use and go to the next lesson, which is to close the valve 08 on V202A. So now he will come, and as you can see, he followed my orders. And I'm gonna show him the next lesson.
Turn handle 05 on V202.
Also the next one, which is behind. You can see.
Close valve 08 on V202A.
So this is the next one.
07 on V202B.
This is a very short lesson we created just for people to understand our concept.
Manually turn on the pump at the control panel.
And let me show you his screen. One second. I think it's okay, so now he is still on 86%. And now I want him to do the final step, which is turn on the pump at the control panel. So what he actually just did was to change the way oil flow direction. So now he's done. And what's really cool is that I can save this session. I can see what he did, how much time it took him to do, and evaluate based on that. So he didn't need to travel there. He didn't need to stay there. He didn't need to actually spend so much money to send him there. I would just create a virtual environment, and then using this goggles, it's really in the market. It's not very expensive, and soon it will be without all these cables. Depends on those big hardware companies. And this is really the basics of virtual trainer application. And of course, I can just repeat what I said. We can have 32 people in different countries in the same environment that you just saw. So it's really getting up to there with this kind of training. And of course, instead of sending an expert to train those employees, we just depend on this hands-on virtual trainer. And that's all for now. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do we have any questions? I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tausik. Any questions from the audience?
Okay.
In what
Sorry?
all fields or sectors we can see the virtual reality taking place?
Virtual reality or augmented reality?
Augmented reality.
Both, in all the sectors. So it first started in, let's say, in the aerospace, where let's say the pilots, needed training. So what they did, instead of sending them to real planes, they started the simulation of virtual reality and letting them feel that they actually are inside this plane. So all of the sectors now are going in this direction to train all the employees using these technologies, whether it's AR, whether it's VR, it's basically both. So all industries are actually going towards that. They actually are training methods. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a nice presentation also.
Yeah.
My question that is through the demo we seen it was working perfectly and nicely also, 100%.
Yeah.
But what is if you go to implement in your organization or in your factory and for the pumping room or your oil sector, if you are working in this, so how long it will take to implement this into reality?
Yes. So we would actually...
And the cost also, sorry for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for example, for this kind of concept we just showed, we would actually go and sit with, let's say, the client, and he will bring the subject matter experts, and they will be the ones that is guiding us on what exactly they want to be 3D modeled, to be animated, to be all that based on their requirements. So we will bring this solution and our expertise, and based on that, we would develop this application and tell them, the more you want, of course, the cost, it will be higher. So based on that, we can build those applications. Any more questions? Oh, yeah, the cost depends. It depends on the complexity of the application required. So let's say if a simple lesson like this, it will cost less, of course, than a full lesson of 10 lessons. So everything really requires, and depends on the quality you need. All these are just checklists we would eventually give a cost. So it's more like a customizable solution for each business and each client. Okay.
May I request Mr. Sajid Kumar to continue the Q&A, please.
Thank you.
Tawfiq, it was a really nice presentation. I had personally visited their place along with the HCT advisory panel members, and I thought that this is a real thing what we have to introduce through our UAE India Business Festival. I will ask you one thing. So we are also associating with HCT, and you're also coming up.
Yeah.
So our companies, say SME sectors and a lot of other companies' requirements are also coming. The AVR creators are also very less, few only. You know very well about that. You are teaching such a way there. And HCT students are also coming up. So if such projects are coming up from our network, also cost effective, if we are going along with HCT and EON, whether we can make a project such a way and introducing to the public for creating?
Yeah, so
Mr. Latif was also asking that about the cost factors and all this kind of. So we can also support HCT students to come up with projects.
of course, this is actually our main goal with our academic partnership with HCT. So we want to teach their students. We have like a yearly program of 8 months, and it's very intensive. It's 5 days a week for 8 hours. We're teaching them from A to Z. So it's not just about, I can go into YouTube now and learn about, let's say, the essential of virtual reality, how to create these applications, but will it be in a structure? How can we manage that? But at EON, our experts already built a real structure from A to Z to learn about the history of VR, where it's going, and basically what really is now trending. As we can see before, it was building a website, and then it went to building an application. And now with the VR headsets competition now rising and more accessible to people and organizations, now the new trend also will be creating a VR application.
Yes.
So to be the first person to create a VR or an AR application, that gives you a very good chance into going, let's say, to be one of the founders in startups on these applications. So this is really the new trend, and we're making sure our SCT students and even all the students around the world are ready for this market. Once it starts, asking for this much of resources to develop all these applications, so we have to make sure we are ready, and we're not just going to depend on the multinational companies. And no, we have to create our own resources in order to do that.
So we can able to join hands together for our customers or our network inquiries?
I think we can sit and talk about it to make sure we're all on the same page, and definitely
yeah,
this is a very great
one more
solution.
thing, the investment angle and business angle. Where do you see that the opportunities for starting this virtual training or the other aspect we are creating? So taking as a business, what is your views on that?
Just to make sure I understand the question, do you mean all these solutions, which sector I would see all these to be implemented there, or?
No, as an institute, to start AVR training to this public.
Okay.
That is one business.
Okay.
Yeah. Second is investing into this virtual reality thing.
Yeah.
And making a business, a product selling point of view. As a business, entering into that business kind of.
That's a good question. But basically, you can see all the big boys are really investing in VR and AR. And lots of rumors coming from Apple as a hardware company. They are also, let's say, secretly developing a new head-mounted display. And of course, nobody knows about it. So all these big companies are investing and making it, let's say, cheaper for the public. So let's say, the vision, let's say 10 years from now, is people would not require their mobile phones anymore. It would be just basically AR or VR headsets. So this is really the market where people should be investing in, because you can see the rapidly growth of these hardware and softwares, of course.
Yeah, so there are opportunities for creating the hardwares, manufacturing of hardwares and selling point of view as well.
Yep. So, yep.
Great. Thank you so much. It was
so
a
much.
nice and excellent presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taufik. Big round of applause, and may I request Mr. Sajid Kumar to please hand over a token of appreciation to Mr. Taufik Kataf and his team. Thank you. So there was Mr. Taufik Kataf and his team from Eon Reality, UAE, presenting on the talk augmented and virtual reality, making revolutionary changes in the industry group. Thank you very much, Mr. Taufik and team, once again. Okay. Moving on to our next presentation for the day. It's a new trend in the reality sector in UAE. And our presenter is Mr. Mohammed Al-Dabal. He's an independent real estate investor in UAE. Mr. Mohammed Abdullah Al-Dabal, he holds a Bachelor's of Science in Geology from Eastern Michigan University, and over 20 years expertise in oil and gas industry sectors, as well as in business development and real estate development. And our presenter is Mohammed 10 years as independent real estate investor in UAE, a major investor in UAE. Mohammed, please welcome Mr. Mohammed Al-Dabal.
Thank you very much. Can I have the first slides? I think I've been invited by the team just to give up presentations on reality investment, and I thought going and overlooking the history of some background. Thank you very much. The first slides, everybody knows I have been invited by real estate comes from itself and the market demand on the usage of the land. Going back into early times, there were no actually demand. It's not a video.
It's coming in the same way, sir.
Oh, okay. So basically, in the early 1700s, there were actually a trade between Dubai and India, and this is not the first one. And this was the, yeah,
Okay.
this is start.
You can pause it and play it.
Do what now? Just pause?
Pause and play.
All right. Just pause and.
Yeah, and the last two slides, it is separate.
Okay. So therefore, in the 1900 to 1940, the area, all the area, I'm just taking Dubai as a prototype example, but it applies on all the Emirates. Along the coast, it was a small, most of the Emirates were a small village, fishery villages on the coast where people were involved basically on the fishing industry, and the consumption was only for the society itself. But here, if you just have a look at the slides in front of you showing Dubai in the early 1900s, and nobody were interested in buying land or owning land. People were thinking of food only. So therefore, the land was here if you available, and people used to go and live in the area where they wanted without the deeds, without any. So there were no actual demand on the land itself. Land or owning land. People were thinking of food only. So therefore, the land was available, and people were just jumping this far. And then World War II came. It's not working properly. Then the World War II came. It's not the, I don't know, I need slides only.
Okay.
And then World War II came, and there were really disruptions in terms of the supply of the society's requirement and needs for the area. It's too far behind. And therefore, from the 50s to 60s, people used to have a trade between Dubai and India, and timber was the major usage of trade between Dubai and basically state of Kerala, where they used to build the dhows and use it for their maritime warships. And defending the, you are going too fast, and defending the area and using it for trade and for industry. And then not until 1950, from the 50 and 60, people started to think of the commodities when the trade started, the gold between Dubai and India, and the pearls. Where is the slides? I cannot. And then the gold commodities were started, the market commodities started to pick up, and people started to import. This is the pearl industry area time. Imported, imported. Why I don't have the slides one by one? Why it is in the movie format?
This is coming in the movie format.
No.
It was not in the presentation.
Well, I made it as a I sent it as a PowerPoint. So then in the 1960, when the money started, the revenue started to come from the sales of and trade of gold, people started to think of, can I have one? Think of the land and the use of the land, and then the business grew up, and then the textile industry picked up, and the automotive parts and the machineries, where the re-export system have started sending a lot of goods to Africa, India, Middle East, GCC, and Iran. And it was not until 70 to 75 that the real demand for land started to pick up. as an asset, where the people started to require a lot of land in order to build infrastructures as buildings, roads, shopping malls, and then the oil revenue started to flow into the area. So in the 1980, here's where the start of the idea of building infrastructure, shopping malls, Jabal Ali infrastructures, free zone started, Dobal, Dogas, and Docamp, and expansion of Diwa and expansion of banks have started. Therefore, the economy have grown dramatically, where a lot of financial fund was available, and they fit the government. It's all messing up, you know, I cannot. Because I have to show the old time and what was the requirement, what was the condition, and then this is the new time, and this is how the grow up of the real estate going on. And due to the revenue of the government expansion in the big projects and from the oil and the related industries, okay, the government started to expand the infrastructure and started to demand a lot of land. So therefore, the land value have started to grow up a little bit. Then the techno, in the 1985, the technology business and the computer business pick up and they started the logistics centers like Jabal Ali ports and dry dock industries. And then the industries start booming. A lot of business have moved into Dubai. And then they had started to, of course, build a lot of requirements in terms of the accommodations. And then people started to acquire land, buy land, and start to build buildings. And then happened the economic crash in the 85, but this was a worldwide economic crash due to the drop of oil price, I guess, from $25 to $5 at that time. And then it stalled for like one year. Then the 88 started to pick up. The market started to pick up, started to boom. And then you had the 1980, the Iraq invasions of Kuwait. Then you had a lot of people come to Dubai or to the UAE, and here the real estate demand have grown up very high, and then the prices have risen up. In the 2003, the freehold started. Once the freehold started, there were a tremendous expansion in the real estate, and the price have tripled in a non-real value of the land itself. And that is why a lot of people used to sell off land and made a lot of money, and then you had the crash. Why? Because they were an unaccountable inflation rate which has grew up, and then there had been corrections. And I'm not saying there was a loss or a drop in the real estate business, but there was corrections. Then in the 2007, the world crash happens, but yet the prices did not drop to the bottom. Just to give you an example, a land which was sold at 17 million or 18 million for like 10,000 square feet in Bar Dubai. After the crash, nobody sold it for 5 million or 4 million. They hold to it. So the crash that happened in the stock market have affected the stock market, and people lost a lot of money, and it drains their balance of of budgets. But the people who invested in real estate, they at least had the real estate as a tangible things in their hand. And then in 2015, the crash was ended and started to pick up. And as you said, that 16 and 17, there have been a steady growth of around, I'd say, 3%, 2.5% to 3%, not much. But a lot of people is talking about the drop in the real estate revenue. It's not the true fact that people is reflecting. Still, there is a demand. People want a place to live. Okay. Only the price varies up and down in 10 to 20%. It depends on the supply and demand of the units around in the market. And what is the future? I am telling you, the correction that will happen, it's going to be a little bit of correction up to 10%, okay? But the demand will pick up because there is an always growth in the population, there is growth in the city. Any one of you had looked at so many places. Just imagine, pause back, look at it 30 years back, and see how it grown right now. There is a growth everywhere. World population was 6 billion, maybe 40 years ago. Today is 7.6, by the way. The growth is always there. So therefore, you would ask, what will the growth we will have in UAE, especially in Dubai, is I see that with the Expo 2020, there will be a benefit. And you tell me why. I say, you look at the history of the Expo, held in every city worldwide through time. In every city, there was a growth of 15% over 3 years. 15% or so. It's a history. I'm not saying it will happen here, but this is the statistic. Thank you very much. And I am sorry about the slides.
Thank you very much, sir. May I ask Mr. Sajid Kumar to kindly lead the Q&A session,
and
please?
Please don't ask me whether you, shall I advise you to invest in real estate or
Thank
not,
you.
but
Thank you so
I am not
much.
here to sell real estate. It's just an experience. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry
Great,
about
great. Considering that your all involvement and what the witness what you had done with UAE's real estate.
Yeah.
And if we say that he is the giant in the real estate market, and he was witnessing all the developments of UAE, especially Dubai, by holding different higher positions. Sir, considering that the upcoming developments, especially 2020,
Yeah, sorry?
upcoming developments,
Yeah.
that 2020 is coming up, that Expo 2020 is coming. So all expats are more concerned about that investment at present into UAE or GCC country or worldwide. So considering to that, as an investor, the expat investor investing into UAE, what kind of percentage of return from the real estate or reality companies they can expect?
Okay, very good question. Listen, a lot of people are greedy. I am telling you. You hear all that. And human by nature is very greedy. They want to invest and get 25%, 30%. Okay? And garment selling, you get 25%. But risk is very high. Okay? Those people, I don't want to give names, but one day in the 70s, 80s, the people who used to sell textile, they made a lot of money. Okay? But the market crash dropped for so many reasons. I don't want to go into detail. And they lost a lot of money. Some of them went bankruptcy. And then you go into retail. Retail, there is 30%. In hotel industry, there is 18%. Very good. Okay? but there is not a study. You have an operation cost that is running on. If you have a real estate, a block of cement, steel structures, and a glass, the maintenance cost is very low. You don't have to fear that much, okay? If in the world, in UK, the return of real estate is around 3%, but the bank interest rate there is 1.2%, right? And the state is around 4%, Germany 4%. And in Dubai, if the bank rate 1.2 plus IBOR is 4%, 5.5%, you should be happy to have 6.5% to 7%. As long as you have above the bank interest, you must be happy. But don't think of having same return as in the retail business, yeah.
Thank you so much
Yes, thank you
for your valuable information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed Al-Dabal. May I request Mr. Sajid Kumar to kindly hand over the document.
But don't think two pictures here about the new Dubai and old Dubai. You have seen how the growth of the city going on. So there is no fear in the investment of real estate. I don't know how did you do it, how you go back to the last, at least you give them one picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one and this.
The two ones. Okay, and the second one? Yeah. See the difference in Dubai between the 55, that's the year I born actually, and the new Dubai, this is 2017 pictures. They're having tremendous growth, and the growth will continue as long as we have an overflow of 1.2 billion coming from India. Everything will be okay.
Thank you so much. Sir, I think there is a question from audience as well. Yeah, okay, please.
Very nice presentation, sir. With the introduction of VAT on commercial properties here, what is you see the future for commercial properties, and don't you think there will be preference towards the residential property?
Your question is the ownership.
No, the VAT introduction on commercial properties.
VAT. You are from India? Yeah, but in India, they take property income tax on commercial. In UK, they take. In Germany, they take. Actually, in Germany, they take 45% on the income tax, on the income, as if you make an income. On the commercial, they take, I think, around 10%, 9 to 10%. Without the VAT, VAT is separate. This will not slow down the business because the government will take the tax from you. He will give you an extra infrastructure space on the road. They will give you utilities, electricity, water, sewage system, network system. Because without those infrastructure, you will not be able to have a successful investment. If you buy a land, you make a building, or you buy a flat in a building, the value will not maintain, will not be, the investment will not be sustainable and grow without having an infrastructure. So the government will take a tax to substitute the cost on the infrastructures, because now the revenue, or the country revenue, is not from the oil. The revenue of the country arose other than the oil sectors. And the cost today, you want to drive a car that costs $500,000, and you don't want to drive it off-road. You want to ride it on the road, asphalt road. And then you are complaining if there were so many holes on the road. You say, no, I want a clean asphalt, high quality asphalt, to be able to drive that value of the car. So the government has to provide this high quality of infrastructures. And I am telling you, I went to Middle East, all Middle East areas, including India. 2 months back I was there. There is no road and infrastructure like UAE. I am telling you, all Middle East. Yeah, the quality of the road, asphalt, maybe in Europe, Germany, okay, UK, and US, they have a good quality of infrastructure, road networking system. So this means it costs money. I mean, they are building a nice airport, not for the country, it's for the people, for the user, for the consumer. And this costs a lot of money. A lot of people are complaining, talking about VAT. It will not affect the business. People will be happy because UAE is providing quality of life, I think so. You won't, okay, quote unquote, you won't find a shopping mall as standard as in Dubai. I wanted to show you a lot of pictures of how the retail business developed from the old souk to gold souk style to the shopping mall, centralized, covered with AC. Today, outside is 55 degrees, fine centigrade. You take your family, you walk in the mall, you don't have to buy anything, do window shopping, but you have this nice environment. So I don't know, your question was, would the VAT affect the investment? Commercial, it will not. Because today we are talking about VAT, value added tax. True? How much? The true added value tax is on what? On consumer product. Can you tell me how much percentage of your income you spend on your consumer product? 20% only. Think of it that way, or 30%. Yeah? I think on residential, there is no tax. Okay, okay, fees, you pay fees, you must pay fees. For the time being, I think people are happy. I am happy to pay this VAT tax. I have no issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please accept the token of appreciation from my Ibmc. Thank you very much. A round of applause. Mr. Muhammad Al-Dabal. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We'll move on to the next topic for the day. The future of immersive brand building in the UAE. And we have got an eminent speaker, Mr. Basam Sabo. He's a CIO, House of Marketing. Mr. Basam is a seasoned marketing professional who served for over 30 years in various GCC locations. He has engineered launching renowned multinational brands, exporting for fast food and various consumer products. He's worked as a consultant for the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, US Trade and Agriculture Board, and his clientele include the Pfizer, Majid Al Futtaim Group, National Bank of Abu Dhabi, National Bank of Dubai, RTA, Emirates Investment, among others. Also acted as a marketing consultant for Channel 4 Radio and TV and handled several marketing projects with Dubai TV and the Dubai 2003 IMF meetings as well. Please welcome Mr. Basam Sabo. National Bank of Abu Dhabi, National Bank of Dubai, RTA, Emirates Investment, among others. And TV and handled several marketing projects with Dubai TV, the Dubai 2003 IMF meetings as well. Please welcome Mr. Basam Sabo.
So this is which one?
No need. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a light lunch. So I know it's late in the afternoons. My name is Bassam Subah, and as you see, I'm in the construction industry. Oh, sorry. Well, actually, it's brand building. So building and construction have come together, right? So we're in the business of building brands. And if we look at what is brand building is all about, we would say, okay, it's a process that aims to achieve a strong brand identity at the end of the day. And there are 5 steps eventually that gets you there. And these steps starts with definitely having to conduct a thorough branding exercise, and follows by establishing a unique, we call it USP, unique selling proposition, that followed by developing the brand creative elements. And the 4th one would implement strategies to establish brand building and analyze so that you refine this. But I'm not here today to discuss the elements of brand building and all this. Actually, we need to have it more relevant to your business. So the question is how it's going to affect the business. And I want to give you a scenario that happens in this part of the world. The scenario goes, a businessman wants to start a project. And this project, let's say, it's in manufacturing. The question is, how it's going to affect the business? So he would have the state of, I want to give you a scenario, get the best quality detergents, have a PhD guy to run this, and then when you tell him, why don't we have a small research to look at the packaging and the branding, and he would say, well, I've spent already 22 million dirhams on this project, another 50,000 can wait later on. As you know, in Europe, it starts the other way around. They go with the 50,000, see how they want to compete, what they want to do, and then start the project. So, well, we want to prove today together how is this important. And the best way to go around it, I felt, is to look at the figures, because figures talk. The total foreign investment flow in the UAE for last year amounted to, if this sounds a big number, 1 trillion dirhams. This is the total foreign investment flow in the UAE. Now, of course, these figures are not mine. It's all from the statistics of the UAE. Now, I would like to share with you by industry investment split. Well, others 14, and then manufacturing and mining around 18%, finance 19%, real estate 23%, and you will see the biggest investment went into retail and wholesale out of the 1 trillion. Now, who are the top strategic partners? I picked up 3 of the top 5, and then I would say that these are in billions. Who would say these 3 are actually, I picked up the top, these 3 out of the 5. It's the US, Saudi, and India, okay? The total investment partners. So who would guess who's 16 and who's 19 and who's 24? Let's make some interactive. Any guess? Okay. Well, the 16 is Saudi Arabia, believe it or not. and the 19 is the US, and actually India is the top. It's not the first, it's the second, but it tops Saudi and it tops UAE in terms of strategic investment partners. So, and if you remember in the slide before, we said most attraction came in terms of investment from retail. This is where most the investment came in. So big numbers. Now, this is UAE, but if you look at the top Dubai GDP components in 2017, you will see everybody thinks about real estate, yet it's big. It's $27 billion. But bigger is the manufacturing, and then transportation, and guess what? Look at the wholesale and retail. It's $103 billion. So I guess the case is proven how the retail and wholesale industry has been quite essential for the UAE. And it's established how much India have pumped in terms of the total flow of investment. Now, since we're talking money, the $1 million, not one question, two questions. How am I different, we should ask, and why customers need to buy my brand? So this is what you need to ask. And then the second question would be, how brand building will add value to my business? So this is the second question that needs to be asked. So brand building will definitely increase brand equity, we call it. And in a while, I'll show you some international names and what sort of brand equity means to them. But if somebody asks, well, I'm not intending tomorrow to sell my company, why should I invest into my brand equity? Well, because it increases market share. And so the brand equity, actually, it's any investment into branding adds to the name. And I want to give you an interesting numbers when it comes to what worth the brands are worth. Well, the most valuable top 10 brands are, this is ICBS, a Chinese bank. It's a value of $59 billion. Then Walmart, it's estimated at $61 billion. And then Verizon at 62. Microsoft goes to $81 billion. AT&T, 82. Facebook, the famous, 89. And then Samsung, valued at $92 billion. Google, 120. Apple, the big Apple, 146. But it's not the biggest. Biggest is Amazon. It's valued at $150 billion. So all these people felt that their brands are worth it, and they got what it's worth of their brands in terms of shares, in terms of this and that. Now, and as I said, it can also increase your market share before you get to this. So the increase of market share definitely will be felt and will be influenced, the branding will definitely influence positively the market shares. I'll tell you how in a very simple way. As market share rises, turnover on investment rises only somehow, but profit margin on sales increase sharply. And with the increase of market share, volume increase will decrease cost of production because you have more units. And the longer patterns of market share increase can lead to reduction of product prices. So eventually, it's a wise investment. So you invest into your brand. This will lead to higher market share. And this, in turn, decrease cost of production. And then eventually, it would lead to competitive product prices. So it's a full integrated process which proves to you that it is wise to invest in your brand. Now, I want to put some success stories of export-oriented economies. We all know, like for example, a country like Japan, it's export-oriented, right? What's so special about Japan? But they have been able to build markets outside the Japanese market. I'll take one example because we don't have a lot of time to talk about this. But we all know that, for example, when you talk about the automotive sector, they have proven their reliability. And they started really with something very simple, but very relevant. You see, the product has to be relevant to the country. If you remember a long time ago, they've established an extremely good, efficient car AC. I don't know if you remember the good old days, but this was how it started, the Japanese. And why? They thought of this country, of this area, of this region, that it's harsh weather, we need to build efficient AC. And this is how it started. And that's why they have taken their market share lead. Unlike, for example, if you think of a Scandinavian name like Volvo, right, of Sweden. They have good cars, safe cars, but they thought of Sweden, not export-oriented. They didn't think of this part of the world. That's why you would feel this is the importance of having a product that is relevant on this part of the world. A lot of other examples could be taken within the Japanese, like for example, in the cooking, National First thought, oh, these people in this area, they like kubba, and they have adapted their machine so that it will definitely cater for this part of the world. So it was definitely relevant. Another more recent export-oriented are the Koreans. Yeah? The Koreans have taken a lead, and they've done it in a way where they've captured the electronics market by offering high-tech advanced technology at affordable prices. So they've done this, and they have definitely succeeded in getting their market share. I've picked up a success story from we all know the emerging market of India is not at all, it lacks anything. We know that the second Silicon Valley is in India, right? And what it needs in this part of the world is definitely a more relevant product, a more investment into branding so that product can take the brands into new areas. I picked up a success story by Dabur. Dabur was able to penetrate the Middle East market via a series of product endorsements by Arab celebrities. So, for example, this is a famous Egyptian singer, Muhammad Noor, and he is endorsing Dabur so that everybody feels that this is something that can be relevant to this part of the world. Also, Nadine is also an Lebanese brand ambassador of Dabur, and definitely this has put Dabur on the success track in competing in this part of the world. So, the moral of the story: investing in brands will pay off, and it's definitely something that I highly recommend by anybody who would like to compete in this part of the world. After all, we are in a market and I believe the success of the UAE because they have known how to market a country, and this is the simple and the most successful ingredients here. So, what does future carry for building brands in the UAE? I believe that brand building will influence positively market share, which will grow in sophistication. This will be in parallel to international brand building practices. So consumers' habits will be studied, more and more sophistication will get into the process of the brand building. And UAE will remain the testing grounds for the first point to launch any new brands or actually repositioning them among existing brands. The issue is to be able to achieve this. The most up-to-date, latest techniques in brand building will be made available with integrated types between branding agencies, statistics, and data centers, plus research firms, because these are the winning combinations of how to build a brand. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope I was able to prove to you how it's worth it to invest in your brands, and especially if you have brands coming from India to this part of the world, because it's definitely worth to invest the names and get edge in competing with the Japanese and Korean brands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bassam. And may I request Mr. Sajid Kumar to kindly lead the Q&A session, please.
Thank you so much. It was a nice presentation. And so branding always important for all. And all are waiting for that your guidance also for branding. And comparing that the new technologies are coming in and the existence of the brands and the survival of the new brands. Where do you see that our SME, MSME companies are coming up? What kind of support or guidance you can able to provide to them?
Sure. Well, actually, the issue is that the Indian market is so huge. And when you look at, you need to be competitive in this part of the world. From the success stories that I've shown, the countries have looked into the UAE. They've looked at the consumer base here. And they have seen how a consumer would react to different brands, how relevant the brand is here. And this is what I highly suggest. I don't think Indian brands when it comes to quality, is any less compared to this, to what is available here. And they can be really competitive if they do the proper invest in their branding procedures and how to be relevant to this part so that they're able to compete.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bassam. Any questions from the audience? Yeah. Can we have the mic, please?
They do the proper invest in their branding procedures and how to be relevant to this part so that they're able to compete.
I would like to ask you,
thank you so much.
When Indian companies are coming in UAE, what kind of advertisement they have to focus on, especially in modern age?
Well, actually, the issue is not the type. It's the first you need to draw a personality of your brand, because a brand has a name and a look, and it's exactly like a person. So once you develop this personality, you see to whom you need to address this, to whom you need to be of relevance. And based of this, you do the targeting. You go for the target group that you need to capture for this brand. The tools are a lot. This is not the main challenge, because this is a piece of cake. You can say, I need to, this target group would be on social media or on TV or reaching them in outdoor. You have the tools are a lot. But the main thing is to study properly the personality, to whom you want to address the message, and this will get you to reach effectively your target group. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Product or which sector you see in the retail itself is gaining the prominence among the all?
Well, you see, the retail industry is huge, as you've seen. Now, a lot of components when it comes to retail goes to electronics, mobile phones, clothing, food. All of them are brands. All of them are competing to reach specific target groups. So, depending on the industry, whatever is the industry, we can make a brand that can be competitive, that can stand among the crowd, among the competition. So, thank you for us.
Any question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bozam. May I request Mr. Sajid Kumar, our CEO, to kindly hand over a token of appreciation to Mr. Bozam, please. Thank you. With a big round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Mr. Basam Subo, the CIO of House of Marketing, talking the subject, the future of immersive brand building in the UAE. We move on to the next topic for the day. It's upcoming trends in the social media and the business implications to the UAE business community with a specific focus to STEAM. We have our expert speaker for the day, Mr. Suresh Dinakaran. He is the CEO of ISD Global. Mr. Suresh Dinakaran, he is the founder and the group CEO of ISD Global, a brand communication and ideas hotshop, intersecting consumer insight, technology, strategy, creativity, and design with presence in 7 countries, including UAE, UK, India, USA, Australia, Vietnam, and Mauritius. He's a brand framer, idea cultivator, disruptive thinker, and business driver. He's a founder, real entrepreneur, the group CEO of and Euphoric Beyond Ideas. He's a managing editor, Brand New, which is, as the name indicates, provides the holistic perspective on the words brand and branding. It has the 3 medium platform versions, print, digital, and the web. He's a co-founder of Show How To, an app that demystifies the world of gadgets and technology. He's also very much active in the blogs and contributed regularly as a columnist in the past to Gulf News, The Economic Times, Exchange for Media, etc. Please welcome with a round of applause, Mr. Suresh Dinakaran.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much. Thank you to the team of Sajid, and Ibmc for inviting us and inviting me. And thank you to all the speakers who spoke before me and all the speakers who will be speaking after me. Thanks very much. There is a slight change in the topic, actually, so the caption doesn't reflect what we're going to be talking about, with your permission. So today, we're going to be talking about a completely new area that is emerging, which was a surprise event to me when Mr. Shams asked me to kind of look at it and research it and explore it and share further. So here is my small endeavor to articulate that, so expecting your patience. I believe the carbohydrates have settled down. If not, you can start dozing off. There's nothing called a free lunch in any case. We just want to segue back to 2004, good 14 years ago. I just picked up this interesting piece of chat conversation just a few weeks into Facebook's founding. There's a conversation that Mark Zuckerberg is having with another friend of his from Harvard. These early days, Facebook is in a dorm in Harvard. So you can pick up the nuances of the conversation. So he's championing his connect, his influence, his aura, etc., etc. So he says, I've got access and data and pictures and what have you. And the friend asks, how are you managing all that? So he continues chatting. So you can read the line and read between the lines what Zuck mentioned after dumb. So there was a culture of taking is better than giving. You're happy to take information, happy to take data, but obviously he was not giving anything back in return. This is extracted from a magazine called Silicon Valley Insider. Again, sticking to our hero of the day, we want to kind of draft as a question of the millennium. Earlier this month, in April, when he was asked to be presenting at the congressional hearing, in terms of the value, the data leak that happened courtesy Cambridge Analytica, Paul Tonko, the Democrat from New York, asked him this question: why doesn't Facebook pay its users their incredibly valuable data? We are all still trying to find out. Things are moving on. There is a new kid on the block. It's called blockchain. And as most of us would know here, it's in very simple terms, it's just a shared record book, which completely disrupts the existing paradigm by being decentralized, without having any intermediaries, have multiple ownerships. It's completely irreversible, and it seems it is going to be the future. Just date back to the year 2010, when Lazio, a developer in the US, ordered for 2 pizzas from Papa John's. He didn't have the cash. He ended up paying in 10,000 bitcoins for the pizza in 2010, about 8 years ago. Had he not used those bitcoins, today they would have been valued at $115 million. Today, 1 bitcoin value is about 11,500, give or take a few hundreds here or there. So it's probably the most expensive food item ever ordered in the world. It's an overused cliche, isn't it? Content is king, content is king, content is king. But we, the creators of content, forget being an emperor, we don't even have clothes. So that leaves us to some food for thought. Again, going back to the Facebook example, there are some staggering numbers there. All on the back of content that you and me put up every day unfailingly. We have this FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, I've not updated my status. I've not posted something. I've not put up my image of the birthday cake, or I didn't post about taking the steps rather than the elevator. All the silly nonsense and the good things that we post are beautifully capitalized by a platform like Facebook. And they just made $41 billion in terms of advertising revenues last year. So what did we get in return? The last line says it all. There's absolutely no ownership, no stake, no incentives. Talk about free lunch. Yeah, it's time to let off some steam after all the frustration. This is a gentleman by the name of David Gaddafi. He's a writer who was based in Colombia. He was posting regularly on Facebook and getting zilch in return. He was not getting anything paid. So there is a quote there by him which says that when I'm writing and contributing for Facebook or Twitter, I feel like I'm in the Stone Age. They have no value without what you're contributing to them. If Facebook doesn't respond to this, things can change very quickly. They should be very concerned. He was talking in the context of having discovered a new platform which will come too soon, and he made about $2,000 just by his regular posting in the month of January 2018. I'm sure this thought has crossed all our minds someday, sooner or later. And some of us are also contemplating, can we leave our cushy or not so cushy jobs and take up a social media platform as a way to kind of earning revenues? But obviously there have been speed breakers and impediments on the way. So that begs this question. Do we get any pay for actually posting, reading, upvoting, whatever it might be on social media? Not as yet. That's about to change. So there is a new platform in town called Steemit. And it might be manna from heaven for people who are serious about contributing quality content, unfiltered content, relevant content, and in the process, getting some return for their time, intellect, and effort. The platform is called Steemit. Just a bit of bio on the site. It's a vast knowledge bank that allows you, facilitates raw, unfiltered content. Currently has about 9 million users every month. And probably it redefines or shifts the paradigm in terms of the financial internet. It's a new business model. It's gone up in the last 2.5 years since its existence, gone up and is now in the top 1,000 websites on Alexa. That's a considerable, significant achievement. It goes by the ethos that the content creator is king. And at this point in time, till about March end, they had about 100,000 content creators where people make money by posting, playing, viewing on the blockchain-based sites and apps. There is some more to their story. As would happen in any kind of a blockchain scenario, it's rooted in transparency. And unlike other social media platforms, it severely discourages any kind of trolling, because your reputation, your goodwill is what is going to actually earn you the money. So there is a huge opportunity cost to all of that. So people, automatically there is a natural check and balance involved. Also, whatever you earn there, it is in the form of tokens which are exchangeable and redeemable on exchanges, and there is an equivalence in the US dollar term. But there is no immediate sellout or bailout. It takes about a week for you to encash, so you cannot manipulate the system. The rewards pool is, like I mentioned, digital tokens for creation and curation. And vitally, the voting system is driven by the wisdom of the crowd. It's controlled by the community on the platform. So just to say a little more about Steemit. 3's company, it is broken up into 3 segments. You can segregate into 3 compartments. One is a base token, which itself is called Steem. The next is called the SP, or the Steem Power, which is a measurement of your influence or clout on the site, which you can buy. And the last is the Steem Dollars, which is pegged to the US dollar. And that can be traded with Steem, or you can transfer them to any other account for commerce or exchange. And when you get the returns for your content posting, depending upon what kind of impact and impression and influence you're creating, you can receive it as Steem Power, or you can receive it as Steem-based dollars, and that's completely your prerogative. Just a bit about Steemit and other social media crypto platforms. On the one side, you have something still very human. Like I mentioned, the wisdom of the crowd dominates. So the most popular, most lucrative is determined in the form of individual votes or on the community. And if you look at the other platforms, be it Instagram or Facebook, it's invisible, hugely manipulated by powerful algorithms that will determine what you see, how much you see, if you can see. So Steemit also, there is hardly any entry barrier. There is hardly any inertia in terms of just entering into it. People just enter it, show up, and start earning the Steem. They're posting and linking stuff, and they're earning something that's worth real money. Unlike other platforms, you'll get probably worthless internet points or whatever it is, but those are not exchangeable or redeemable. They don't convert to any kind of money. Cryptocurrency is actually quite intimidating for the people who are not aware of it. We are still learning. I'm still learning. It's absolutely alien area, foreign area to us. Therefore, the platforms, the new platforms try to, it becomes very, very difficult for the average person to understand and penetrate and decipher and interpret what are the possibilities and the pitfalls, etc., etc. Whereas, if you look at the Steemit platform, there is sufficient expertise in the community itself that guards you and protects you and safeguards you in terms of how to operate there, not just operate there, but get return for your time, intellect, and effort. Just continuing the 3's company philosophy, these 3 are very closely interlinked. One drives the other, or vice versa, depending upon which way you want to look at it. And it is very seriously influenced by the social media platform. So how the currency will gain in currency, pardon the pun, is determined by how much of upvoting, relevance, community voting, community garnering, community support it is getting on those platforms. Having said that, it is also subject to price fluctuations, one way or the other, north or south, depending upon how the users are reacting on those respective outlets. The Steem token was valued at about 11 cents in March 2017. It went up to about $3.55 in March 2018. And the prognosis is that it will touch about 12 point, I can't see the figure, sorry, in April 2023. There seems to be significant potential for the steam rising. So what is the kind of impact it is having? It's actually defining the new normal. And probably it will kind of look at recreating the social media environment in terms of content. So it's opening up a completely new door. Parallelly, what it is doing, and probably there is a vested interest for a new kind of exchange, new kind of crypto, wherein it is democratizing the usage and broader acceptance of crypto. Most importantly, the fulcrum, the content creators, they get more legitimacy, authenticity, and commercial value for what they're doing on the site. And because it is disciplined, and because there are subject matter experts there, and because it, by the nature of its default settings, discourages trolling and things like that, it brings in quality and a moral discipline. So it also creates a very level playing field for creators, curators, and the people who have the platform to broadcast and articulate. It's making an impact, as can be seen from the revenue payouts that have happened till now and what is also being projected. They have paid over the last 1.5 years almost $3.5 million, and within 2 years expected to do about $50 million per year in terms of payout to content creators. That's a serious number. And last but not the least, it is also opening up a completely ad-independent media industry. So there are many opportunities for random publishers, erstwhile publishers, small and medium-sized publishers looking at revenue opportunities through the power and the wisdom of the crowd. As is expected with every other rising emerging stars, we need to be having some caveats, some to kind of be aware of. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is certainly not a get-rich-quick scheme. You need to bide your time, you need to bide your talent, you need to kind of work your way up, you need to kind of create and build on your influence, and then that is when you start making money. So don't expect anything overnight. And just like any other cryptocurrency, the bubble could burst as well, okay? It's unlikely according to the experts, I'm no expert, but it could burst, so one needs to be aware of that aspect. A similar model called Minds, between the time you told me about this particular platform, I've just discovered 3 more platforms. Between the time this presentation is completed, I've discovered 2 more. So apart from Minds, they're following a similar model wherein they're looking at paying the content creators. There are another 2 platforms that one can look at. One is DTube, which is a similar thing like YouTube, but it is video-oriented completely. And the other one is DSound, which is again considering the encouragement and the emergence of podcasts and sound and audio as a medium for social articulation. So DTube and DSound are the other 2 platforms apart from Minds. Minds playing in the same space. So obviously, probably the ecosystem will grow. So when you grow the ecosystem, the pie will grow and the industry will grow, is what the expectations are. And if with all this happening, Facebook cannot be left behind. So they are also considering something similar. Okay, so if you can't beat them, join them. So they're having their own plans as well. And again, another pitfall that one needs to be wary of, like what the Hong Kong exchange Bitfinex experienced, was the trending news could actually make the value go south. Okay, so that's something that we need to be very, very wary of. I think I am done. Yeah, so just steam it if you feel like it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh. May I ask Mr. Sajid Kumar to kindly lead the Q&A, please?
Any questions from audience?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh. May I ask Mr. Sajid Kumar to kindly lead the
Q&A. I would like to ask, how long it will take to come steam it, same like Facebook?
It will not be mass, definitely not mass, because it will require a certain amount of writing skill, thinking skill, influencing skill, engaging skill, and it is not everybody's cup of tea. So Steemit should not ideally, should not compete with the likes of Facebook. Facebook is very mass. Anybody can actually be on Facebook, but not everybody can be on a Steemit or a Minds or a Crypto or a DTube or a DSound. So it is going to be a very niche, specialized kind of an audience, but that is where the value would be. That is where the value would be, because you want that kind of distilled, selective, intellectual, aware, conscious audience that will deliver for you, that will kind of influence you, that will support you, safeguard you. And so you're in that community of elite. So it will never get to mass. It will never get to mass, and they should be comfortable doing some probably 1/50th or 100th of Facebook numbers, and that will be supremely well done.
So there will be no competency between Steemit and Facebook.
Competition, Facebook might be seeing it as competition simply because, if they are looking at considering something on a similar platform, so obviously they see it as competition. They see the platforms like Steemit are actually trying to reconstruct the business model. Okay, if somebody is putting in time, effort, and if there is quality of content that is being generated, I need to kind of pay them back in some form, because that is building the audience, that is building the engagement, and that is driving your advertising dollars and sponsorship dollars and all of that, right? So Facebook is probably looking at that, so it's reverse engineering its model. So it's still early days, but I don't think it is going to be competition from a point of these new kids on the block, but from an established model like a Facebook or an Instagram, which is part of the same company, they would be wanting to kind of reconstruct their model and also be this. Okay, so they might follow a model which is a mass market model. So you'll have an Emirates, you'll have a Fly Dubai, and you'll have one more low cost kind of thing as such. So it'll be a similar kind of approach, I suspect, that they will follow.
So do you think after becoming Steemit as a successful social media, is there any chance social media can be taken out from the market completely, maybe after 10 years or 20 years like that?
That's too far away into the future to broadcast, because in this kind of scenario, what will happen next afternoon becomes very dicey. So the crystal ball gazing is something that's too much of an hazard at this particular stage. But the models will continue to change. What will happen is content will give you the power to be as democratic as possible. It will empower people. It will go back to the old school days of what content is meant to seriously do. Okay, so there will be respect for content, there will be empowerment for content, there will be value for content. Okay, that is something that will kind of come back to haunt most people who otherwise have not respected it so far. Okay, but in terms of what will happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't want to be an oracle.
One more point just to clarify, like in Facebook and other applications, like when we see the advertisements, we are not getting paid for the same thing. But in Steemit, you were mentioning that for watching the advertisement, we are getting paid. No? Can you just elaborate on the particular thing?
It's not about just watch it. I said it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. So what happens is that the more time you spend on it, the more influence you gather, the more community you gather, the more posts and more contributions and comments you do. There are points that are built up, and what happens is the comments column is actually kind of determining. That's why I call the wisdom of the crowd. Okay, so if Anup is doing something, Suresh is seeing it, Sajit is seeing it, X is seeing it, and these are people who have spent more time than you on that side. So they come with a certain clout that is organic to the platform. So the more they comment on your thing as such, your kind of value goes up. So it is inbuilt, it is organic, it is protected internally. So you need the support of the community within that to kind of grow and earn.
So it's not immediate. You need to
certainly
spend time.
Not immediate. Yeah. Certainly not immediate. Okay. No, certainly not immediate. It's not plug and play.
Question: any platform that draws advertising budgets with it, do you think it's going to affect significantly the digital advertising?
Definitely. So just like it happened, Basam, in the case of magazines and specialist vertical newspapers, you've been a media veteran, people went vertical. So there were magazines for oil and gas, there were magazines for chemical, there were magazines for automotive, there are magazines for real estate, So what will happen is you'll have more and more content, more and more social platforms emerging that will be vertical oriented, speciality oriented. It's like there won't be too many Yahoos of the world. So if you recollect Web 1.0 and when Yahoo was formed, it was broad, deep, wide. They would do everything. They were aggregating, and you could talk about rocket science, and you could talk about consumer goods or whatever it is, and they could talk about films. But today you'll see a scenario wherein you look at increasing confluence. There will be a silo that is focused towards specialism. So that is where the area, that is where it will go. Because if you remain mass, you're competing with far too many people then. You don't have the scale of a Facebook or an Instagram to kind of compete at a mass level. So you rather kind of focus on your area of specialty and kind of disrupt, be the first mover in that particular kind of ecosystem.
And Mr. Suresh, do you think that social media will lead for crypto activities like, the tokens and other promotional activities?
Sorry, Sajid, I didn't get your question.
See, the social medias will take a lead to promote crypto activities like tokens and all other things?
Absolutely. Allow me to be a little tongue-in-cheek here. Sometimes I also feel that there is an intertwining and it takes two to tango. So social media is used by some of those crypto exchanges and crypto creators to make sure that there is a sense of validity, acceptance, embracing of what they are creating. Okay, and probably paying creators for content that is being developed and placed on their platform is one legitimate way of winning trust and confidence. So definitely social media and the crypto will go hand in hand.
So the thing is, there are possibilities for social media business to start a trusted social medias for encouraging the activities of cryptos.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh Dinakaran, CEO of ISD Global. May I request Mr. Sajid Kumar to kindly hand over the token of appreciation to Mr. Suresh Dinakaran. So please accept token of appreciation. With a big round of applause, please. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you very much. Now we have another session right now. We have a book release. May I request Mr. Latif Ahmad, the Congress Manager of Alim Business Congress, for the leaders make decision to kindly be on the stage, and the CEO and Managing Director of Ibmc, Mr. Sajid Kumar PK, to be kindly on the stage, please. We have a book release of The Seva Way by Dr. Rashid Alim, the chairman of Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority, and a visionary leader who has changed the way in which the Seva has functioned, Seva is functioning, and the book called The Seva Way. May I request to kindly release the same thing? Thank you very much. May I request Mr. Latif to kindly say a few words on this book, please?
Yeah, actually, His Excellency Dr. Rashid Alim, he wrote the book about the Seva Way. He wrote about the 15 principal management in this book, which is take the organization from loss to profit. So you can download also from our website, www.alim.com. Yeah, thank you very much.
And Ibmc also closely associating with Alim Business Council and Dr. Rashid Alim. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Latif Ahmad. We'll have a short break right now, a tea break, and we'll be back with the panel discussions and much more exciting presentations going ahead. Thank you very much. We'll have a short tea break. Thank you.